You've tuned in today. Hello, Stu. How are you?
Glenn, how are you? Hope you're doing well.
Now I'm not hearing anything. I have to tell you. I have to tell you. Oh, boy. Okay, maybe. Hello, Stu. How are you?
Glenn, I'm doing well. How are you?
Oh, my gosh. I've never been better. I am kind of in a really bad, we'll do it live kind of mood today. So you never know what might happen. Let me start with, I got off the phone with a very well-placed source in the FBI. Very well-placed source. One that has access and knows. Would you agree with that description, Stu?
I would, yes.
Yeah, okay. And I said, well, first of all, it started with the Mediaite article, which I'll get into here in a second. And and I said, I'd just like to know what Dan saw that changed his mind. Because I know Dan Bongino. I know Kash Patel. I like both of those guys. I trust both of those guys. I do not trust the government. I don't trust the FBI. I don't trust the DOJ. I don't trust the Treasury. I don't trust the Fed. I don't trust the milkman at this point. So, I think most of America is like that. My point yesterday was to make sure that we all understand that the lack of trust in our government is very, very dangerous. And none of us should be doing anything to enhance that lack of trust. Now, how do you repair it? Well, not by ignoring it, not by just saying don't talk about it. You have to address it head on. So I trust Kash Patel and I trust Dan Bongino. And I have said on this program, I am going to give them a year before I say anything, including Pam Bondi. I'm not going to sit here and condemn them for what I don't know what is happening. I know they're both, or all three of them, are surrounded by sharks. Okay? I know that the corruption is very deep in the FBI and the DOJ. So if I'm not seeing some arrests in the next year, a year from now, I will be coming on and I will be saying things. And Dan Bongino and Kash Patel would be the first to say, you should be. But the point I was making yesterday is I gave you the 7 phases of a republic or an empire. And all empires in history have fallen. And the last 2 things, the only 2 things that remain in this, 3,000-year epic story of the rise and fall of multiple empires, when you look at all of them, there are only 2 things left before we fall. And that is a complete lack of trust in everything and a collapse of the dollar. That's it. After that, we're done. And so yesterday I said, I don't know what to believe, but I don't believe that Epstein killed himself. Now, that is my belief, as I said to you yesterday. We cannot operate just on belief. We need facts. And in my monologue yesterday, I was saying, what kind of facts would you need to believe? For some people, Kash Patel and Dan Bongino coming out and saying that is enough. I told you yesterday, Stu, remember when we played the video of Dan Bongino saying, I've seen the evidence. He didn't kill himself. Remember what I said right after that? He's telling the truth. You have that video? Go ahead, play the video.
You said Jeffrey Epstein committed suicide. People don't believe it. Well, I mean, listen, they have a right to their opinion, but as someone who has worked as a public defender, as a prosecutor, who's been in that prison system, who's been in the Metropolitan Detention Center, who's been in segregated housing, you know a suicide when you see one, and that's what that was.
He killed himself. You want me to get, I've seen the whole file. He killed himself.
Okay. I believe him. That's not good enough for America, however. Now, I have also said on this program, do you want to feel good or do you want people to go to jail? I want people to go to jail. That's why I said with Pam Bondi, when on day number 2 after that debacle of the release of the file, I said, look, perhaps this is because they're still gathering evidence. They want to put people in jail, yada, yada. I don't know why they withheld that evidence. But to believe that Pam Bondi, because I asked the president on this, to believe that Pam Bondi has sold out and then Kash Patel and Dan Bongino all sold out means that you must then believe that Donald Trump knows it and is part of it. That's the problem. Who is left to believe? Now, I want to see the evidence because the country must see the evidence. You don't fix things, and they know this. You don't fix things by saying, you know what, trust me. Dan Bongino, you've heard him for years. He's never said that to me. I never heard him say that on the air. Trust me. He does. That's not the way he is. He's very much like me. Don't trust me. I don't ask for your trust. I don't want your trust. I don't ask for your trust. Don't trust anyone in my position. You can trust that we have the best intentions, but don't take anything I say as gospel truth because it's not. It's my opinion. It's the understanding of what is going on to the best of my ability. You can trust my intentions, but don't trust what I say. Do your own homework. The only way truth is sustainable is if it's your truth. If you're a Christian, you know this. You have a testimony. You can't feast on somebody else's testimony. I can't sit here and fix the country or feast on the testimony of Donald Trump, of Kash Patel, of Pam.
And we've lost Glenn here. Pam Bondi, he was talking about as well as a real problem. Glenn, I think you might be back with us here. Sorry about that little drop.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You're saying you can't just lease everybody your trust.
Correct. And people that you should trust tell you, don't trust me. Do your own homework. It has to be yours. So the thing that we are waiting for that has to happen is the release of information. And that will come. And if it doesn't, well, then you have a problem. But it will come. I talked to this source yesterday. Now, I have read stories that disagree with this. Just yesterday, I think NPR, a very reliable source, as reliable as Mediaite, a very reliable source, says that there is no tape of the hallway in front of the prison cell. I talked to a well-placed source yesterday at the FBI that told me, yep, that tape does exist, and I saw it. And I saw the last person to go in the cell when he was alive and the first person to go back in the cell after he was dead. And I said, so there was no foul play? He said, no, wait. I want to separate two things. One, did someone go in the cell and kill him? Did somebody kill him? The answer, because of the video evidence that they say they saw, and I believe this source, they said the video evidence shows no one went into that cell. No one. Okay. But it doesn't show the cell. It doesn't show what happened. That's the first thing. Now, the second thing. So are you saying there was all of this was a coincidence? No. I am not saying that. I am not saying that there wasn't a desire to set him up. There might have been a desire to have somebody go in and kill him. It's a long string of things that happened that don't make any sense. Was there a conspiracy to kill him? I don't know, but probably a lot of people needed him dead. But did he kill himself, or was he murdered by those people? The answer is he killed himself. Now, that doesn't mean you don't create the conditions that make you want to kill yourself. And I don't mean just sending you to prison. Yesterday, I spent all morning, and I'm so frustrated because the republic is at stake. You know that, and I know that. I try to do my best to not... Stu and I talked about this yesterday. Neither one of us are the type to go in. If something happened, at a store or something, got it wrong, and we're just, and it's going to be a fight. Both Stu and I are both like, just leave it alone. I don't care. Because we don't like conflict in our life. And yet this is what we do for a living. This is not what we wanted to do. We started doing this show because we were making fun of talk radio. And then it got serious after 9/11, and we found ourselves doing it. We don't like conflict. I'm from an alcoholic family. I was the one that tried to make everybody laugh so we didn't see mom or, dad falling down the stairs or whatever was happening. I don't like conflict. But I find myself in a situation where the truth does cause conflict. And you must discipline yourself to search for the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. We cannot live in sound bites. We must understand the depth of what is going on. Because as I'm going to tell you here in a few minutes, there is a new concerted effort to bring our streets into chaos, bring our country into chaos. The left, I shouldn't say this, the Democrats are completely dead. It is run now by the uber dangerous left. That's who's calling the shots. And that they are going to, I'll use their own words, do everything that they've done in the past and take it to the next rung on the ladder. That's a quote. You want to save your republic? We cannot dismiss the people that we have grown to trust, that we have put our faith in. We need to give them time and let them show us the evidence. I want to see some arrests on a few things. I want to see the progress being made. There was a story about the FBI building itself that bothered me yesterday. And I think we talked about it, but briefly. And it bothered me. And I want to tell you about that coming up in just a second. Stand by. First, let me tell you about Lear Capital. The U.S. national debt has surged to over $36 trillion. And if the current trend continues, it could hit $54 trillion within the next 10 years. Moody's just downgraded the U.S. credit rating, pointing to sky-high federal spending and political dysfunction that is blocking any meaningful fiscal reform. Congress, this must be done. You know what they're arguing over right now, Stu? The big, beautiful bill? Mm-hmm. Do you know what the Republicans are arguing about right now?
Many things, but what?
The main thing is whether they should give the president all of the cuts in the Green New Deal.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah. Republicans are doing that. Republicans. If your Republicans are still looking at the Green New Deal and not understanding what that is, you should lose, and I'll help campaign against that person. That should be the biggest no-brainer ever. We must cut the deficit and the debt. Now, are we going to get that done? I don't know. Most likely not. We'd be the first people in the history of mankind to turn it around at this point, but I still believe we can. But I'm hedging my bet, and I would suggest you do the same. Do you know that gold has climbed over 20% since late 2024? Many believe it's just getting started. If gold is out of your price range right now, take a good look at silver. It's $30 an ounce. Silver is a critical industrial metal with limited supply, soaring demand. You want to make batteries? You got to have silver. Lear Capital makes it easy to invest in both gold and silver, whether you want physical coins, bullion, or precious metals IRA. Learn more about the rising silver prices ahead, the rising gold prices ahead. 800-957-GOLD for your free Sky High Silver Report and Precious Metals IRA Guide. When you call, ask about getting up to $15,000 in free gold or silver with qualifying purchase. Call them now, 800-957-GOLD. 800-957-GOLD. 10 seconds, station ID. So yesterday, do you remember the story where they said that it was quoted, Kash Patel was saying, we've got to show America that, this is a strong institution and honorable and we need a building that is worthy of this. And I immediately thought of Kash telling me, I'd move all of these people out, I'd break this thing up, and I would not build a new building. Okay. That story, the stories that I read yesterday, was written in a way to make you believe that maybe they are just moving over to this new building. No, they're not. They're not. And they have moved thousands of FBI agents out of the office. Why? What are they trying to do? They're trying to break up the cabal in the FBI. They're trying to get it back into our cities so it's not focused on politics. They're trying to break the back of this institution that has done good and is now doing a lot of bad. So they're trying to break up the cabal. They're firing people. They're moving people. And they are also going to be announcing that they are saving us billions of dollars. And I'll let them handle that. But we have to know that most of the middlemen have no desire to save the country. A lot of the middlemen. I was talking to this person. Well, I'm not going to get into it. I don't ask for your trust. I don't want your trust. I want you to do your own homework. And I want you to follow your gut. Do your homework, then get down on your knees and pray. Lord, what is true? What do I need to do with this information? And how can I help save the republic? If you're not on your knees asking him that, because he's the only one, may God save the republic.
This is Glenn Beck.
Identity theft feels like getting robbed in slow motion. It doesn't hit all at once. It starts with something small, a weird transaction, an email that doesn't look right, a bank, that's calling, and you weren't expecting this one. But when it spreads, now there's a new credit card account you didn't open or a loan in your name. Maybe your tax return's just gone. And then goodbye credit score. To unravel. That's why there's LifeLock. Their systems can scan billions of data points every day, banks, loan files, Social Security use, even the dark web, to catch signs that your information is being misused. If they find something, you're not on your own. LifeLock has a U.S.-based restoration team who will work with you to help repair the damage and put things back into order. There's the slow-motion robbery. You don't want that to happen. Get protected now. Protect yourself with LifeLock. Join now. Save up to 40% off your first year with the promo code BECK. Call 1-800-LifeLock, 1-800-LifeLock, or head to LifeLock.com. Use the promo code BECK for 40% off. It's LifeLock.com, promo code BECK.
Go to glennbeck.com, get the email newsletter. Every story we talk about every day, it's free at glennbeck.com.
Hello, America. Thank you so much for listening. Some really tragic news yesterday. Scott Adams, a friend of the program, has announced his terminal prostate cancer diagnosis. I just want to play a little of it. It's brutal what he had to say. Listen.
Some of you have already guessed, so this won't surprise you at all. But I have the same cancer that Joe Biden has. So I also have prostate cancer that has also spread to my bones. But I've had it longer than he's had it. Well, longer than he's admitted having it. So my life expectancy is maybe the summer. I expect to be checking out from this domain sometime this summer.
Mm.
Cancer is, it's affected all of our lives. All of our lives. It is so horrific. And the kind that Joe Biden has and Scott Adams has is extraordinarily painful. Now, Scott is, he's a guy who campaigned for medical assist suicide. So he's going that route. He said, I'm going to take it for as long as I possibly can. But the pain is just beyond imagination. And I'm going that direction, which is very sad. But I got to tell you, I don't. AI can't come fast enough on stuff like this. We are so close to curing this stuff. AI is going to find ways quickly to give us answers on this. Now, he said he tried the ivermectin thing, the thing that Joe Rogan and Mel Gibson, were talking about, and he said that doesn't work for him. He said it might work for other people, but it didn't work for me. In fact, didn't he say it made it worse too?
He said, the levels, the PSA levels after he took it actually went way up. So again, he did say, I think that is important because a lot of people, I've heard a lot of hope on that. And of course, we always look for hope in these situations. But at least in this particular case, he said it did not help at all.
So yesterday, Zeke Emanuel, who was the guy who designed the Complete Life system. He's the guy who helped design Medicare. He was the chief medical advisor for the Obama administration.
Yeah, Obamacare.
The guy is not, Obamacare. He is not some Republican hack. He is the exact opposite of that. He is a far lefty that believes in universal health care and Barack Obama and all that stuff. He came out yesterday and he said there's no way that Biden didn't know this. He's had it for a very long time. There's no way he didn't have it for a very long time. It doesn't metastasize to the bone, in the last, couple of months. Go ahead, Stu.
Just a slight clarification there. You may have heard something additional than what I heard, but his point seemed to be it was there the whole time. Not necessarily that he knew it was there the whole time, but that it was there and it was growing for at least his presidency and maybe a decade. But he didn't necessarily say, hey, he was hiding it. That's just,
You don't have that kind of aggressive cancer without it showing up somewhere unless your doctor is completely incompetent. So there's only two answers to this one. Did the doctor only tell Joe Biden, but he was so mentally incompetent he forgot to tell anybody else and he forgot he had it? Was he told and they kept it quiet? Did the doctor miss it somehow? There's no way you can get this kind of cancer and it just shows up right at the very end. There's no way. Yeah, and the president gets the best health care available.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest point, because I think this type of thing could happen to a normal person, like to an average, everyday Joe that goes to the doctor and gets these things checked out only because they really feel like, because their wife is bugging them, and they check it every few years. And, there are some of these cancers that don't show up in the testing. Some of them don't show up until you have actual symptoms, which is what Biden is claiming. That being said, when you're Joe Biden, when you're the president of the United States, and we should note also the vice president of the United States, it's just impossible to believe that with all of the testing and all of the medical attention, unless he was refusing it, which I do think is possible, but unless he was refusing it, it just seems impossible that they wouldn't catch this before it got to this level, which is just a devastating level.
I don't believe you have a right to refuse when you're the president of the United States. The way I understand the Constitution, and from everybody I have ever, talked to that has been in charge of the safety of the president, you don't have a choice on some things. Sorry, Mr. President, you belong now to the country. You can't choose where you're going. We say it's dangerous. You're not going there. You can't tell the doctor what he can check and what he can't check. And if that did happen, then that's a real problem with our system. We have to know, we would have been, if Donald Trump wouldn't have won, we would have today been talking about, oh my gosh, Kamala is going to be president of the United States and he's going to be dead soon. We'd be transitioning power right now. This is unacceptable. If the doctors didn't know it, it's unacceptable. Period. If the doctor did know it and it was kept from the American people, it is unacceptable. Now, this is what happened with FDR, and this is one of the reasons why the Democrats, FDR was a Democrat, the Democrats, after the death of FDR, said, no 4 terms, no more. He gathered way too much power. He could do anything he wanted. No more. Only 2 terms. Okay? That was his own party that did that. Now, after Barack Obama, if he was running a 3rd or a 4th term, I would clearly be on the other side and going, no more. But do you think Barack Obama supporters would have done it? These were FDR supporters. And they knew he was in congestive heart failure. When he went over with Stalin and Churchill, where was it? It wasn't in Iran. It was the other one where they're making the final peace deals. And he's sitting there. They know he's dying. Everybody knew he was dying, but they didn't tell the American people. They knew he was dying in the 3rd term. Didn't tell the American people. Well, you know what? This is our country. We choose a leader for our country. And his responsibility is to protect our country and our rights. And if you build anything on lies, you can't do that. You can't be effective. You can't be effective truth teller if your own house is built on lies. Can't.
And I think this is something
the doctor should be in front of Congress by next week.
And this is something I think we need to codify into law, perhaps the Constitution. I mean, we're now looking, if you go back to Woodrow Wilson, we've had 18 presidents since Woodrow Wilson. Since we've had FDR, you mentioned, Obviously, Woodrow Wilson had a stroke and his wife was running the place. Now Joe Biden, certainly a very close call with Ronald Reagan, who just a few years after leaving office, had Alzheimer's. We're talking about basically 20% of our presidents are in this situation over and over and over again that we keep dealing with. That is completely insane. You think about how many times do we talk about...
May I add another one?
Yeah, go ahead.
Kennedy. Kennedy was on so many drugs. Nobody knew how much pain he was in. Nobody had any idea. Nobody knew how drugged up he was. He was on so many drugs to keep him out of pain. Now, I don't know if that impaired him, but, I imagine it was narcotics at the time. I mean, we should look this up. Ask ChatGPT what they were giving him, and see if it mentally impairs you. But I know they were shooting him up with all kinds of stuff all the time. So, add another president to that.
Yeah, that's completely impossible for a nation to. I mean, think about the situations that JFK was dealing with in that in his presidency. Think about the ones that Joe Biden just was. The Ukraine-Russia thing spiraling out of control was a real possibility. We all sat here, watched that debate, and then sat here for month after month after month of Joe Biden remaining president of the United States while we were on the verge potentially of World War III. That is an unacceptable situation. This has to be codified into law, perhaps the Constitution, that these health investigations go on in some very visible way to the American people. It's crazy. I mean, and I will say, add on if you want, the left would say the same thing about Donald Trump. I mean, we should just know. That's it. I don't believe that Donald Trump has any health problems, but we should all be very, very clear on this. Everybody, left and right, should be able to see this stuff so they can feel comfortable that their president is actually their president. This isn't 100 years ago with Woodrow Wilson anymore. It's the most recent president. And now, after he's out of office, everybody admits it.
Yeah, well, I think some people need to go to jail on this one, too. I mean, I don't know what the laws are. I'll leave that to the DOJ. But, I mean, Congress should investigate everybody involved, the doctor, all the people covering up, all the people that were feeding executive orders and pardons into that auto pen for Biden, especially by the end. There are three people that were very, very instrumental in being the body people for Biden. I'm sorry, you can't see him. He's really busy right now. There were three people, and I'd like to see those three people in front of Congress testifying, because this cannot happen. I don't want it to happen with Donald Trump or the next president or the next president or the next president. I don't care what party they're in. For the love of Pete, this is our country. Okay, more in a minute. Let me tell you about American financing. For a long time, the game was really, really simple. You work hard, you pay your bills, and then maybe, if you stay out of debt, maybe you build something you can pass on to your kids. Well, that game has changed. Interest rates have surged. Inflation has dug its claws into everything, from gas to groceries, you name it. You're paying more for it today. This cannot continue. The team in American Financing specializes in exactly this. They're not a bank. They're a family-owned loan, a bank. I don't know what they are, but they're not a bank. They're family-owned, and they help make loans for you. They go out and they find the loans. They're a loan broker, I think. And they go out and find the loans for you that fit what you're looking for. They're the people that come together and look at your situation and find the best way out. You can get your budget back under control and start breathing again without having to constantly live in fear that the next credit card statement is coming. I know what that's like to live like that. Please call American Financing. They might be able to help you. 800-906 2440, 800-906-2440, or go to AmericanFinancing.net. AmericanFinancing.net.
NMLS 182334. NMLSConsumerAccess.org. APR for rates in the 5 starts at 6.799% for well-qualified borrowers. Call 800-906-2440 for details about credit costs and terms.
What you're hearing are your thoughts via the mind and mouth of Glenn Beck. More next.
Most homeowners worry about break-ins, or you got to have your deadbolts, you got to have your security cameras, you got to have your alarm systems. All this to stop thieves from getting into their house. But what if someone could steal your entire home without ever stepping foot on your property? That's exactly what home title theft does, and in 2025, it is happening more than ever. These criminals work from anywhere with an internet connection. They target homes with good equity. And your home might be next. This is how it works. They just find your property information online. Public records can make it pretty easy. They forge documents with your name and signature. They file these fake papers with the county. And just like that, your house legally belongs to them. The scary part, nobody checks if this is real. County clerks process the paperwork like any other transaction. And once they own your title, they move fast. They can take out huge loans against your property, sometimes hundreds of thousands of dollars. Then they vanish without really telling you anything, and they keep the money. When foreclosure papers arrive at your door, that's when you're awake to this problem. Home Title Lock solves it. They can watch your property title every single day. If someone tries to mess with it, they can alert you immediately. Technology is, changing the world. We know that, but don't let it change the name on your home's title. Go to HomeTitleLock.com right now. If you use the promo code BLAZE, you'll get it hooked up. It's HomeTitleLock.com. The promo code is BLAZE. HomeTitleLock.com.
This is not speculation. If you have prostate cancer that is spread to the bone, then he's most certainly, you were saying, had it when he was president of the United States.
Oh, yeah. He did not develop it in the last 100, 200 days. He had it while he was president. He probably had it at the start of his presidency in 2021. Yes, that I don't think there's any disagreement about that.
So you see his wording there. That's Ezekiel Emanuel, by the way, certainly a Democrat, talking about Joe Biden's cancer diagnosis. He's not exactly saying that he knew about it that entire time. He's just saying it was there and growing. These things just don't develop that fast. And, thankfully so. But it is a situation where you think a situation where a patient has doctors like Joe Biden had access to, this would be easy to discover. That doesn't mean that everybody knows about it in time. I think a normal person who maybe isn't as attentive to his health, you'd think, might miss something like this, and it does creep up on people, right? It does, and it if you find it earlier, you obviously try to do something about it. It's if it's in this stage, it means you missed it. You'd think. In this situation, the question is not whether necessarily he knew about it 10 years ago and just didn't do anything about it. Maybe that's the truth. But the question is, did they know about this serious diagnosis earlier and then delayed it? I want you to think for a moment about what today's show would be if we didn't find out, if that debate went a little bit better, or maybe they canceled the debate. There was talk about that at the time. And Joe Biden somehow squeaked his way through the presidency. The media beat up on Donald Trump enough, and he, lost a couple. Again, the margin at the largest margin in the blue wall states that Kamala Harris needed to win was 1.7 points. That's how close the election actually was. Let's just say somehow Joe Biden made it through and won the election. What we would be talking about today is Joe Biden resigning the presidency and handing the presidency to Kamala Harris with this diagnosis. That's how serious it is. It's all stuff that we worried about. Obviously, the health was part of it, the physical health. But the mental health was widely available information to anyone with eyes. And that's what all these books are about now, I guess, just confirming that all the stuff that we heard in the media were lies that entire time. We'll get into that coming up this hour. The book is out today, by the way, Original Sin. That's the Jake Tapper, Alex Thompson book. And more books are coming. Everyone's talking now, and we'll keep talking about it.
This is Glenn Beck.